Hello, welcome to Lloyd Street Masterchef. Our contestant is Kathy, and she's going to tell you what her super special, delicious challenge is going to be.
I'm going to be making a vegan cheesecake for Shavuot, and I've chosen to make a vegan cheesecake because for the last few years I've been keeping to a plant-based diet, and also just to prove to my partner Harvey that it can actually be done, that you can make a good vegan cheesecake. If it had been a few years ago, I probably would have made my family recipe, which is my Grandma Wolf's cheesecake recipe, which I've been making for 25 or 30 years. And towards the end of my career making that cheesecake, I discovered that when my mother gave me the family recipe, she left out a key ingredient, and I'd been making it all these years differently than everybody else in the family because I was missing the one key ingredient. But it was good nonetheless. But I hope that you're going to think that the vegan cheesecake is good.
Well, I hope so too. A vegan twist on a cheesecake sounds a bit iffy to me, but we'll have to see.
Okay.
So, now you're going to go off to the marketplace to try and find your ingredients.
Okay.
Off you go.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so how I think about this, I'll start with the base. So I need some biscuits for the base. I'm sure these would be good. No, they're not vegan. Hobnobs are vegan. I'll take the hobnobs, and then I'll need some vegan butter to make that into the crust. And then the main cheesecake, I'm going to use chickpeas and cashews and coconut milk. That forms the base of it. And then I'll need some other bits to just make it work. So here I have 300 grams of cashews, plain cashews, raw, not roasted or salted or anything. And I'm just going to pour on here boiling water and leave them to soak for about 15 minutes. I'm going to make the base now, and I'm having to use biscuits because disappointingly they didn't have any graham cracker crumbs, which is what I would normally use. But I'm going to use these biscuits. These are the only vegan biscuits on display. I'm just going to give these a quick blitz because they're not all going to fit in there, but normally I would add the butter as well. But I'm going for 350 grams of biscuits and 4 melted tablespoons of vegan butter. So let me just blitz these. That's probably enough to make room for the rest of the biscuits. Put these biscuits in here. And pour in the 4 tablespoons of melted vegan butter. And then we're going to blitz again.
I'm a bit worried about this really. I mean, this is supposed to be a super special showcase stopper for Shavuot. And all we've got so far are crushed biscuits. I mean, is this going to be good enough? I mean, how is she going to keep it crisp yet sticky, soft yet moist? This is a real worry. I do hope she's going to manage it.
One of these at home works a bit better than this one. Let me just get something to scrape it down with. Up. And I just saw steam coming out the back of this, and I was hoping the food processor wasn't going to die, but I think it's just steam coming off the boiling water off the top of the cashews. So I think we're okay.
On top of all that, she doesn't seem to be very good at using the blender.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press that into the bottom of a springform pan. A springform pan is one of these with the clip thing on the side. And what I've done is I've lined it with baking paper. So I traced a circle for the bottom and a long rectangular strip for the side. And it just makes it easier to take it out later.
There were a lot of lumpy junks there, and I don't know if this is going to work properly at all.
So I've just pressed the crumb firmly into the bottom of the springform pan here as firmly as I could, trying to avoid any big chunks left, even though I couldn't make the food processor work properly. And I'm just going to stick this in the fridge to cool and firm up while I make the filling. So I'm going to set the oven to, well, the instructions say 160. Our oven runs a little bit hot, so I'm going to turn it a little bit lower than 160, about 155. Okay, so here I have the cashews. I've just drained the boiled water out of them, so they're without the water, and into the food processor we go. It's quite easy, this recipe, which is a good thing.
Well, Kathy.
It's quite a good thing because it's easy to make. Everything just goes in here, Greg.
You say you're making a cheesecake.
Yeah.
I can't see any cheese. What's going on here? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got cashew nuts.
I know.
I can see some chickpeas.
I know.
What is this all about?
Okay.
This is supposed to be a super special show-stopping Shavuot dish.
Yeah, well, it's a little hard to make a dairy dish if you're vegan. So what we're doing here is we're trying to substitute things and make something that's really delicious.
But will it be really delicious?
It will be
I mean,
really delicious.
It's got to be really delicious, or else it's no good.
Let me get on with making it. I'm just about to put in 175 grams of chickpeas, also drained from a tin, also drained. And then I've got here a lemon, which I've zested and squeezed the juice out of. That's also going in there.
That seems more like it.
I hope. What, lemon juice?
Well, lemon juice in a cheesecake, that seems more useful, yes.
So it smells a little bit like a cheesecake already.
You think?
You'll be surprised.
I think I'll be very surprised. But I'm looking forward to the results.
Oh,
so,
good.
the thing is, if you've only got 5 minutes before you've got to get this in the oven.
In that case, you better leave me alone because look at all the things I still have to put in there.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm putting in one tablespoon of vanilla extract and 2 tablespoons of ground arrowroot. Unfortunately, they didn't have the big container in the marketplace. This is not so ecological to have to open all these little packets, but never mind. Each packet is approximately 1 tablespoon. And then I'm going to add some sweetener, which is, in this case, half a cup of maple syrup. Hope that Greg thinks that's sounding a little bit more like a cheesecake. He's made me nervous now. That's the maple syrup. And then the next thing is, oh, he wouldn't like this one, I don't think. This is tahini. I'm putting in 2 tablespoons of tahini into the mix with the chickpeas. Maybe it doesn't really sound like cheesecake. But I did have this cheesecake once before, and it was absolutely delicious. And when I've been practicing at home, Harvey really loved the cheesecake. So maybe Greg will like it too. That's the tahini. I'm nearly done now. I'm going to put in a whole tin of coconut milk, and it has to be, oh, it's hard. It has to be the full fat coconut milk. You can't use the light one because you need the solid coconut. Oops, oh dear. That's not going to matter. It said to use a 400 ml tin, which I have done, even though I spilled a little tiny bit of it on the counter. Hopefully it won't be too much. Half a teaspoon of salt and 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. I'm not sure how good this is sounding, but I promise it's going to taste good at the end. So now I'm just going to blitz that till it's smooth. See, it takes a little while to zhuzh it so that it's completely smooth. And now it is completely smooth. And I'm going to get the tin out of the fridge so that I can pour this on top of the base. So I've just taken the bottom crust out of the fridge. It's nice and set now, firm in the bottom. And I'm going to pour, firm in the bottom. And now I'm going to pour this mixture into the tin.
It still doesn't look much like cheesecake to me. Let me have a... Doesn't smell that much like cheesecake, but let's hope, because this is going to have bags of flavour.
Okay. Oopsie.
And very few blades. We don't want blades in it if at all possible.
I think that's a very good idea. Let me try and get this out without putting my hands off.
Can I help?
No, I don't think so. Is that against the rules? What is that? Coconut milk. It's not as smooth as I would have liked.
No.
I shouldn't really say that in front of the judges, should I?
It looks like it might end up something like looking like a cheesecake.
Yeah?
Let's see if it tastes like it.
Okay, so...
We'll see. I'm going.
Okay. Okay. And now, I'm going to very carefully put this in the oven. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in the oven there. And so I'm going to set the timer for 40 minutes and check it then.
It's gone in the oven all right, and who knows how it's going to turn out. I mean, look at those ingredients. Tahini, chickpeas, cashew nuts. It's more like a Middle Eastern mezza than a cheesecake. However, we'll just have to see what happens. I'm a little worried about the whole business myself.
So I'm just going to check whether the cake is baked yet or not. So I'm going to have a quick look and see whether it's firm around the edges with still a little bit of a wobble in the middle. And I would say it's firm around the edges, but there's more than a little wobble in the middle. So I think it needs a little bit more time.
You better hurry up because you've only got 30 seconds left.
Oh no, well
No,
it needs a bit more time.
I'm joking, I'm joking.
Okay.
You've got 10 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. A few more minutes, I'm just going to check it again. And I can see now that the outside is definitely firm and there's just a much smaller wibble in the middle. So I'm going to take that out now. Turn the oven off. So I've taken the cheesecake out of the springform mold, and while you weren't watching, I made a bit of topping. You can use anything for topping, any kind of fresh fruit. In fact, it doesn't actually have to have topping. What I've made here is some fruit from the freezer, berries and cherries, and I just boiled them for a few minutes, simmered them for a few minutes with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cornstarch, and then allowed it to cool and thicken. So now I'm going to cut a piece of the cheesecake for Greg to try, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm cutting a slice. Ooh, nice big slice. I hope he likes it. And I'm going to take it off of here. Remember, there's a piece of paper underneath, so we want to make sure. Oh, doesn't that look good? Comes out perfectly. And just put a bit of the topping on the top and allow it to run down the side if it wants to. A little bit. There we go. And now it's ready for tasting. Well, that was really hard. I hope I've done enough. I definitely don't want to get sent home this week. It's so much harder to do it here in the Masterchef studio than it is at home. I mean, even things like the way the apron kind of gets in your way while you're trying to measure things out. And that Greg Wallace, my goodness, he's a nuisance. I mean, you know, breathing down your neck all the time, telling you this, that, and the other thing about your ingredients and your time checks. It's really, really hard. Anyway, I've enjoyed it. It's been great. And I hope if you decide to make the recipe at home, that you'll enjoy the cheesecake too. I promise I've given you all the ingredients on the list. Haven't left anything out like my mother did to me with my grandmother's cheesecake recipe.
Well, despite my earlier misgivings, this certainly looks like cheesecake. Let's see what it tastes like. That's cheesecake. What a surprise. My hats are off to you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and my hair is off to you.
So it is.
That's absolutely delicious.
Fantastic.
I'm very amazed.
Whoops.
And I'm sorry I was so rude about your ingredients.
No, thank you. You can't even taste the chickpeas, can you?
You wouldn't know. You'd think it was cheese. I'm amazed. Bags of flavour. Bags of flavour.
Excellent.